Good evening, guys. Welcome to a new episode of Coffee with Toffees. My name's Toffees. As always, you can find me at Toffees TV if you're so inclined. I'm joined by my guest, Zyori, Andrew Campbell, if you will. You can find him over at Zyori TV. So some similar Twitter names, easy to track. Excited about tonight. We're going to just chat for a little while. If you guys haven't seen the new Coffee with Toffees, we changed the format. It's not a wannabe news show anymore. Essentially, we just take 20-30 minutes with some of our favorite personalities and pros in the scene and shoot the shit, learn about their past, a little bit of a history buffer, since I don't think we have a lot of good history tracking in Dota, since a lot of the old websites died a miserable, horrible, fiery death.
You gave up on the whole news shtick?
People do it better. I've been working with Renessa, and I think her TLDR is really strong. And honestly, I don't think that it was as effective as people tuned in to watch chatting with folks like Zyori. So that's what we're gonna do. Bring people what they want. It also works better with the podcast format, I think.
Yeah.
So real quick, a big shout out to the sponsors you see on the stream. Our equipment sponsors are Asus, Republic of Gaming, and ProBuilt Systems. ProBuilt actually built the computer you're watching the show on because the other one exploded. And Asus provided some of the parts as well as the laptop for traveling to events and doing shows on the go. So thank you to them. A big shout out to Gameleap, our newest sponsor, who has, we'll talk about it a little bit later in the show. I think it's a really good service, so I started throwing them on there. And it's a really cool way to raise your MMR for almost no cost. So
is Gameleap a new sponsor of yours, Toffees?
It is. They just came on board because basically they said, we think you should go to TI because we like your content and your show. We want to give you some cash, and we're going to give you a free sub to the channel or the website. And if you like it, throw assets on your show. If you don't worry about it. We still want to see you there.
I think there might have been a read between the lines there, Toffees. They're like, hey, bro, we want you to go to TI, and there's no way you're going to get there if you continue to suck at Dota. So we're going to give you some free coaching. Here you go, buddy.
And you know what? They're right, though. I'll never get there on my gameplay prowess. I can assure you of that right now.
Me neither.
So, okay, real quick, guys. If you don't know Zyori, the man sitting here with me, this is Andrew Campbell. He goes by Zyori TV. He has been around the scene since he abandoned Han back in the day. Started out, you are, I think, and I could be wrong here, but if I remember correctly, you're probably one of the first started from the bottom, now we're here casters, right? Like, you started in your bedroom casting something called Dota FM. You were, like, covering Star Ladder wall-to-wall audio only.
It was Dota Radio.
That's what it was. I'm sorry. My bad.
Dota Radio. But, no, it's all good. I don't know. I don't know if I want to take credit for that. I feel like a lot of people went through a similar path that I did. That was one of the first things that LD and I really connected over, was that similar history of just trial and error. You know, like both of us started making esports content before it was easy, you know, before Twitch had Twitch alerts and, you know, OBS and XSplit. Like all of these modern day tools didn't exist yet. Flash media encoding was still a brand new thing. You needed all these different softwares. It was, you know, broadcasting without overlays, and you slowly, one piece at a time, buy a new microphone, buy a new webcam. You know, we kind of experienced that around a similar time before the Twitch bubble. So there are a lot of people that had a similar kind of grassroots feel. It just manifested in a slightly less grassroots manner. I kind of got lucky with Dota Radio. I used that perfect timing. You know, MLG Columbus 2013. They're like, hey, you're doing something cool. You want to talk about that on the couch? Like, would I ever? And then, you know, that kind of started the whole thing. But
and it grew from there, and you ended up at BTS, and a lot of us know the story from that point moving forward. And so we're not going to go into all of that. If you guys actually want to see a little more of the history of Zyori, you can go to an old Coffee with Toffees episode from last year where we talk about him coming to BTS and sort of that background and all of that stuff. So I'm not going to get into it today. What I do want to talk about is after the last international, you made a pretty massive career and geographical move, both in the same wonderful gesticulation. So what I want to do is, before we get into sort of what's happened this year, which we're going to talk about primarily, I want to know, where did you end up? Because last we checked in, you were leaving BTS and you were getting in a car to drive across the country. I think you even slept on my couch one night.
I did, actually. Yeah, that was a great trip back. I stopped at Phoenix. You know, I stayed at the Suns fan house for a couple days, the DC house, and that it makes it kind of an awkward trip. It's like 36 hours, so you have a couple really long days or 4 really short days. But yeah, it was a long trip back. It was one of those kind of, I need to leave and I don't know where to go, so I might as well go where I know people. So I went back home. I had a couple friends that needed roommates. You saw one of them walk by a couple minutes ago before the show started. So, you know, it was just back to my roots, back to an area I knew. It's going pretty well, man. I have to admit, Moonduck was a bumpy start. I think the vision was always there, but the catalyst to get it started and to actually create the foundation of a company that is, you know, shaking and moving and writing checks and receiving checks and all that kind of stuff it took a little longer to adapt to that learning curve than we all expected. You know, at first we tried the pure democracy system where everybody just kind of has a say and sort of volunteers to do work. That works for about a week and a half until things get complicated and everyone starts assuming that everyone else is doing things. And then we realized, hey, we need like a project manager, a kind of a general decision maker, and then we can trust in his power to do things, and then, you know, just have checks and balances along the way. So it was a bumpy start. Dota Pit was a big deal for us. That was like part of our foundation, part of our business plan of getting started. You know, when Moonduck was brewing, panels in Dota were kind of shitty. You know, the TI5 panel was notorious for being kind of stale, kind of stiff. So we really wanted to start injecting more of that Slack style into Dota content. So we thought Dota Pit would be a perfect event where, you know, JJ or Pimp Muckle and Mott had already been working with that tournament. They already had verbal agreements to go. You know, we sort of absorbed High Ground TV effectively, if not officially, right? So we thought that would really work out and be a good opportunity. Of course, they ended up ditching the contract like 2 weeks before the coverage was supposed to start or something, and went with Join Dota for a much lower price. And that hurt us a lot. That, of course, of losing OD Pixel was also a PR blow. But we needed that big stage to prove ourselves, and we didn't really get that. You know, Captain's Draft 3 was cool, but it's not the same as a big LAN and all the teams are there and doing a full panel and you've got Slacks in a suit doing his thing. But we're finally getting some content going. You know, we've been doing that Global Grandmasters tournament. CCAP has been pretty small, but now we've got the Mr. Cat Invitational coming out, a few weeks of solid C content, and a couple other things in the works. So I feel good about the current state of Moonduck. I know publicly it looks like we're pretty quiet, but there's a lot brewing under the surface.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting that you bring up that you guys are sort of rebirthing. I don't want to say rebirthing, but sort of reestablishing through the sort of SEA content coverage, it looks like. And when you go back to BTS's roots, a lot of their initial coming into Fight JD for coverage seemed like it came out of a willingness to do SEA and Eastern content coverage, which wasn't oversaturated at the time. So kudos to you guys. It's a region that I think is on the way up, and I'm excited to watch. I mean, this year proves it, so it should be really good. Now, regarding the Moonduck life, and we'll get a little more into each of those different things, but I do want to ask you this. I know that you've been hosting What the Duck since the first episode, and you've been on every episode that's aired that I've been able to catch.
For better or for worse, yeah.
But I feel like there was a period in the first couple of months after you left that you sort of ninja vanished from the scene outside of What the Duck. You sort of just disappeared on me, and I was curious sort of what happened during the time, because you've come back full force, I would say, a couple months now. We've seen you at some major events. We've seen you on the couch. We've seen you doing a ton of casting. If you go to Twitch, you can almost always find you doing something.
Yeah.
What did you find another game? Did another game lure you away? Was it nice to have a break after the BTS grind? What was happening during that time?
Yeah, no, that's very astute. It was a medley of things. Part of it was legit burnout. You know, some people think it's a lame excuse. I've said this in interviews before that I hit a burnout point at BTS, and believe it or not, it's true. Burnout happens when you're working in this kind of an environment and industry. I didn't manage my personal life very well for the year and a half I was at BTS, and I just simply worked too much. You get stuck in that loop of just never turning off, and eventually that really catches up with you. So it took me a while to reset. Like December and January, I did actually nothing. I just watched Netflix and laid around and kind of got my office set up and bought a lot of things off Amazon. And to be perfectly honest, I think I was a little more depressed than I gave myself credit for. Some of it was also not having a lot of content. You know, Moonduck had not enough to be a full-time job. You know, so it was basically sort of a part-time job, and the little casting contracts that we did have mostly went to Mott and other people because they were just... You know, we really wanted to get Mott to a major, which kind of ended up working out, right? He did cast the last major. And he was the one that said, you know, I really want to grind games. You know, I'm really into this. And I always wanted to take the role as kind of the business manager. So when content was slim, we gave it to the people that were casters primarily, and I was happy to take a back seat. Maybe a little bit too much. Some of that decision-making was based on having more content that fell through. You know, we were... like bidding on the Nanyang contract, that didn't work out. We were bidding on the MDL contract, that didn't work out. So there were a lot of other things at the time. It seemed like we were gonna have all this content. Oh, don't worry, I'll just take the next one. And then the next one kind of never came for a couple months. So that was definitely part of it. There was a good window there later on in the year where I kind of felt reinvigorated and sort of, you know, excited to be there again. I mean, after I left BTS, I did ESL New York. You know, that was pretty cool. That was in October, I think, of last year. That was a really awesome experience. That was one of the biggest events I've ever done. Definitely the biggest outside of the International 5. It was a huge learning experience. Hopefully ESL will invite me back for the future. They worked with Red Eye for the last one.
Right.
Chobra, they've got an array of good hosts, but I felt pretty good about that overall. At the very least, it was an awesome experience to say that I've now broadcast in Madison Square Garden Theater. That's pretty fucking ridiculous. And then after that, the Frankfurt Major was kind of the awakening of like the legit burnout. There was like the burnout at BTS, the snap decision to say I'm going to make a change, and then there's all of this hyper focus on the new company and building the culture and the policies and the plans and all this stuff. And then after a few months, all of that sort of set in stone, and it's like, great, so now we need the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. We just need some contracts and some content. Fuck, where are the contracts and the content? Uh-oh. And the Frankfurt Major was when it started to sink in of just like, what am I doing? I'm not casting, I'm not hosting. There's all these other hosts. Uh-oh. And I remember we flew Slacks to that event to make content. Right. That was like the reason he was there. And I was going kind of just for fun to network, the whole kind of thing. I wasn't really officially there. I had to go to Europe anyway to cast the group stage. It was a whole thing. So I was there to make content. I remember every day waking up and seeing that big bubbly face and him so excited and passionate to make content. And me sort of feeling like I used to have that feeling. I remember going to MLGs 4 years ago and feeling that drive of just wanting to go ham and make the best content ever. And right now, I kind of just want to go curl up in my hotel room and just sort of hide in the darkness a little bit. It's that sort of subconscious depression where you don't really know what it is. You just feel kind of blah and unmotivated, So that led to a few months of darkness where I just kind of unplugged from the whole space and everything for, like I said, most of December and January when the captain's draft picked up. So that was the bulk of it, really. It was that combination of needing some time off, but also just not having, many opportunities in front of the camera.
It makes sense. And I think for those of you who are listening, maybe you don't know this if you are a typical human being who doesn't do a ton of public speaking or is in front of cameras very often. But as somebody who's been in theater and performance and stuff all my life, one of the biggest issues is being on all the time. I think one of the first lessons that we teach, I taught acting and theater for a long time, was teaching my students how to be on and then turn it off and take time for themselves when they leave the stage. And that's hard to do. At BTS especially, I mean, that's a studio that's just known for grinding 24 hours. Like, these guys cover everything. And I remember watching you back in the day and seeing you casting at 2 and then taking a nap and then being like, hey, can you do a show? Well, no, I got to cast again at 7. And it just seemed really intense. And you got to remember, when you guys watch, especially these hubs, these young casters trying to break out who are casting insane long periods of time, it's really hard not to get burnt out because you don't have the time to decompress and become yourself again. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the other things, this is more over the past couple months, but I've started taking a vitamin D supplement, and I have to admit, pretty sure I've been vitamin D deficient for a pretty long fucking time because I don't go outside very much, and I feel a lot better. 5,000 IUs of vitamin D a day. I swear to God, it'll change your life if you're a cave dweller like me.
Absolutely. That's a great suggestion. I also want to touch on this before I move to the hosting saturation, which you actually brought up organically. You mentioned two things. You mentioned Mott and Sir Action Slacks, and sort of on the back of, we gave it to them because we wanted to develop talent. And I think that when we all watch majors and we watch these large events, it's impossible not to notice the same people begin to attend, right? You start to see the same names pop up. Yep. When you're doing things like flying Slacks out to make content at Frankfurt or really working to promote Mott for his first chance to sort of go to a major, is that also an investment for the agency or the talent agency side of the company where you're saying, if we make that investment now, they'll get hired back to these events, hopefully continuously, because we know they do good work, and that's better for us in the long run?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, that's one of the things that makes Moonduck a little bit different. Like, there's a lot of differences between Moonduck and the other, Dota studios and kind of esports studios in general. We're a studio in the sense that Moonduck is an umbrella that encompasses all these people, bids on tournament contracts as a brand, and creates content as a brand. Elimination mode, captain's draft, and a couple other fun ideas we have still in the cookbook, right? The agency side basically means a couple of things publicly. One, we're not exclusive. So we represent our talent in terms of contract negotiation, financial management, marketing themselves, PR, general decision-making, but there's no putting Moonduck before yourself. At Moonduck, the people come first. Every individual's brand is more important than Moonduck's brand on the average day, right? So, that's basically what we want to do. In theory, we want to be able to scout good potential talent, help them cultivate that skill set a little bit more quickly than they would on their own, and then, you know, help them move their career in whatever direction they want. For some people, that's voice acting. For some people, like Cinderin, that's moving into playing. You know, whatever it is, we just want to make that easier and help you kind of achieve your goals. So
do you think that philosophy came back and bit you in the ass with somebody like an OD Pixel?
No, not really. I can't say specifically why we parted ways with Owen as early as we did. There were communication breakdowns on both sides, and it had to do with the way we structured the organization, the way we delegated responsibility. I think Owen really just wanted to focus on casting, and we kind of, for whatever reason, wanted him to do more, expected him to do more, and that created a lot of friction. And I mean, obviously, he made a good decision. His career is in a great spot right now. He's getting a ton of contracts. He's casting all the big lands, and I think his casting is better than ever. You know, we're still on good terms with him. We don't really use him that much for casting because we have plenty of casters on our label, but he's on our short list of people to reach out to if we're in a jam or, you know, we want to work with him. So it was just more of sort of a logistics learning curve, and it really does take time to build a company and a culture and a way of doing things. You know, everything seems really easy when you just say, oh, no, we're just going to do it this way, but to actually build the structure and make things work and not have to reinvent the wheel every time you want to do something and, you know, create that kind of efficiency, it really takes a lot of time and patience. So, you know, we didn't have that when we were working with Owen, and it was admittedly a little bit chaotic and whatnot. So
makes sense.
We scared him off. What can I say?
I know it was fairly chaotic early on. I think if you watch the early Moonduck episodes, you get a vibe of that with sort of this, who's even hosting this thing? It was a lot of fun, but there was a chaos inherent that was entertaining, but definitely new and different. I'm going to ask one more Moonduck question because it's become a little bit about Moonduck. And then the next half of the show, I'm going to talk specifically about Zyori and the Dota scene and sort of the future as well as the past. So here's my last question. We've touched on it a little bit. Moonduck, you said, like, you admitted it hasn't gotten as much visible coverage as some of us expected when the announcement of Moonduck came out. And that's, you know, we saw contracts fall through. We saw some outbids or underbids or however that happens to be working. But you're not the only studio. I think that it's fairly safe to say, and maybe I'll get blackballed from Join Dota for this. It is what it is. Where they've also seemed like they've had a bit of a backslide. We don't see as much exclusive content coming out from them anymore. There's a lot more of a sort of merging of the studios for these large events. What is the scene changing? Is everyone active like they used to be and just not branding as much as they used to be? Like what's happening in the scene where we've seen such a huge shift in terms of where the contracts are going or how they're working?
I'm probably going to get off track here because there's a lot to digest in that question.
Sorry.
Yes, things are changing a lot. No, it's a very good question, but it's just one that I can give a very long-winded answer for. Things are changing a lot. The majors have completely changed the landscape of the Dota scene for players and for casters alike. Mainly for casters, it has to do with these big hubs. BTS is uniquely positioned just with their economy of scale and their amount of raw resources in terms of studio space, where they have a lot of small studios in their commercial space. They have a lot of on-hand talent. You know, they have the know-how to actually produce a big stream, all that stuff. None of the other studios can really do that. So it's just maximizing efficiency to bring everybody together for those hubs. BTS doesn't have enough people to do quality coverage for every single game in the way that they want to do it, and none of the other studios want to go head-to-head to compete with BTS, so it just kind of creates this nice little scissory union of everybody working together. And it does help create some of the mobility. You know, we saw Annie get a lot of love, MRP get a lot of love for some of their work. You know, Grant now on the rise, the dreaded Mongoloid of Dota 2 now actually becoming like a serious personality, right?
He was on my show Sunday.
Yeah, there you go. The hubs are a big part of that. So that alone is changing the state of things. It also changes the financial structure a little bit. We're also now not seeing crowdfunding in tournaments. We're seeing it for majors, but for third-party tournaments, that really changes the equation, because sometimes people forget that, you know, all of the money that goes into the prize pool, usually a comparable portion of that goes into the pocket of the tournament organizer and the artist and all the people that made it. So usually that money is not used only for profits, but also to support lands and to pay casters and production and all the other things that make tournaments happen, administration costs, you know, all this kind of nonsense. So that has also been a big adjustment. I think the lull period you're talking about with Moonduck also does sort of coincide with a lot of the third-party tournaments adjusting to that change in the landscape and sort of adjusting their business models to figure out what works. I remember saying this like 3 or 4 months ago. People saying, oh, shut up. Look at all these star ladders. Look at all these third-party events. I'm like, well, yes, they're still going on, but that doesn't mean things aren't changing behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
These tournaments are still going on because Dota has been on an upward trajectory for upwards of 2 years now. A lot of these big brands and studios and tournaments have signed contracts with sponsors for multiple seasons or multiple tournaments. If you're doing like a tournament series, say we're planning on doing 6 of these. Once you have 4 or 3 of them done, it gets way easier to sell ads for the next year or whatever. You know, you lock that in, you space out the payments. So the landscape changes during that contract. You can't just say, well, we can't make the same amount of money on this anymore. Fuck it, we're going to move on. You still have to come up with viewer minutes and content and find creative ways to serve stuff. So it can be a little deceiving just saying, well, there's still a lot of content right now. It's like, yes, but there's a lot of adjustments behind the scene, you know? So anyway, go ahead.
Well, I think you make a good point about especially the way the funding has changed, right? Especially during the first set of majors, and I won't say who it was or what organization, but I remember speaking to an organization leader for a group that was putting on a major and mentioning a newbie stream and saying, we haven't seen one of those since TI, and even that one was a little bit underproduced. You know, is that something that can ever come back? And his response to me was, we'd love it, but we're running on financial fumes right now. Literally everything that we have for this event is invested, and there's no wiggle room. And I think that that's something that we forget about. We're so used to Valve events, right? Where if something goes wrong, they open the piggy bank back up and they say, okay, here's another $100,000. You want Codal to be at the event? Sure, we'll invite Codal Guy. We can afford that. It's a different ball game when you talk about the majors, and I think a lot of people miss that. Granted, Shanghai sort of ruined my ability to say things like, well, we got to try to fight for more funding for these tournaments because obviously you can't necessarily trust everybody.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there is a degree of the free market type thing that Valve has a lot of stock in. You know, the whole Adam Smith invisible hand bullshit. Some of the good tournaments will float, and some of the bad tournaments will sink. And fundamentally, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just that period of chaos when everyone's adjusting is a little bit scary if most of your income is tied to said industry that's in state of chaos. But I think overall, things are changing for the better. It's just getting over that speed bump of adjusting to the way things are going to be. You know, some of the big orgs, not sure if they're going to be able to get a major. That also does change the way things go out. Some tournaments were definitely trying to like pander for a major, so to speak. And I don't think a lot of people thought PGL would be the ones to get the last major and end up being the ones that really raised the bar and set the whole thing up. In terms of studios changing, though, there is a lot more cross-collaboration. I think some of those old political lines are starting to die, partially because people are getting tired of it. And partially because in the end, that kind of stuff really just ends up being negative PR for both sides. You kind of end up looking childish.
And you have an opportunity to say no comment on this because I don't know what the rules are. But I heard that a lot of the casters, I don't want to say most, but a lot of the casters who attended these hub events for majors or TI were actually paid in part by Valve or chosen by Valve to cast games. Is that something that's sort of encouraging the studios to come together for these hubs? Because
no. Yes and no. It's kind of the other way around. Yes, there is split payment. Basically, Valve supports Dota TV. That's the big thing. Everyone came to this conclusion not that long ago that, hey, when we're doing this kind of coverage, so for example, first major, BTS did their hub. It was just a one stream, you know, kind of a multicast type deal. And we were in Sweden. It was Moonduck and Join Dota and Dream League. We all teamed up and we did serious high value production quality for 1.5 regions. It was most of Europe, a little bit of China, and a little bit of NA. So there was a whole region, C, that was basically left uncovered. There was very little Dota TV coverage, and BTS had all these amazing casters, but they just wanted to do one stream that bounces around and casts off Dota TV. It's way easier to produce a stream that just bounces around the live games on Dota TV. You don't have to worry about delay. You don't have to worry about mic issues into the game. You simply just get a video feed, and you can move whenever you want. You're not tied.
Your cost-income ratio with sponsors is significantly better at that point, too.
Well, yeah, it can be, but it's literally a production convenience. That's one of the biggest things. So, Dota TV just if you want to have audio in every single game, if you want an English caster in every single game so that anybody can just turn on the client, pop into a game and listen to somewhat decent commentary in English, that takes a whole nother level of production prowess and setup, and you need individual casting booths. And then if you still want to do a multicast on top of that, you need like a 24/7 panel. So it just sort of came to light of just like, well, what's our incentive to do this Dota TV thing? And that's where Valve said, okay, this makes sense. You know, if we're streaming on Twitch, we run ads, you know, we can sell sponsors. We can't do any of that on Dota TV. You can't sell ads. It's basically not monetizable. It used to be monetizable through selling tickets for tournaments, and then you could crowdfund the tournament and keep some of the money. But with the major hubs, that's not there because it's, you know, it's all Valve money for the major compendium. So that was how that whole thing basically came about. I don't think any of that is, I don't know if that's super public, but I don't think any of that's particularly.
I don't think it's out there. I don't think it's against the rules to talk about.
No,
so.
I mean. No, it seems like a fair arrangement. It was Valve realizing, okay, we need to incentivize. If we want that kind of coverage for all of the games, which is possible with the amount of people we have, we need to find a way to incentivize it. And it does help offset some of the cost of those hubs because, trust me, they are fucking expensive. Those are not the kind of events that BTS is doing and then sitting back and counting their fat stack afterwards. People really underestimate how hard it is to do a 24/7 stream for like 4 or 5 days straight. It takes an absurd amount of resources. Like anytime people are pointing at one specific panel and go, oh my God, I can't believe they would do a Zyori, Llama, Shiva, Ryu, Boraz panel. It's just like, no one thought this would be a good panel. Literally everyone else is casting or sleeping. Like we're tapped out right now, okay? It's a weird time zone. You get to that point in those events. So it's necessary. It's really not one of those big, you know, sometimes people don't realize how the finances work behind the scenes. And sometimes there's this illusion that casters are rolling in all this money. It's not that kind of money. It just makes the event possible. You know, it's that kind of stuff.
All right, cool. I think that's some pretty good information. We learned a lot about Moonduck. What I want to do, guys, is I'm going to take a quick break so you can have a word from Gameleap. And then when we come back, we're going to zoom in a little more on Zyori and talk about everything from dreadlocks to tight pants and beyond in terms of where he's been, what he's doing, and where he's going next. So don't go anywhere. You're watching Coffee with Toffees live with Zyori TV.
Gameleap wants to know, do you want to improve and win? With over 400 professional guides by 6.5k plus players updated daily, unleash your potential. Master the most up-to-date strategies and secrets of professional players. We guarantee that you will gain MMR and dominate. Visit us at www.game-leap.com.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is Coffee with Toffees. My name is Toffees. I'm joined here by Zyori. You just watched an advertisement from Gameleap. If you guys missed the information, long story short, they came to me. They said, we want to donate some money to send you to TI to make content. Here's a free subscription to the website. If you like it, great. You can use assets. If you don't, no harm, no foul. And I love that kind of stuff. I've said no to sponsors in the past who I felt had, how do we say it, Zori? Like less than reputable moral fiber?
So anytime a sponsor approaches me and says, hey man, I really like what you do. I have this product that I didn't explain very well. How do you think we should market it? That is a red flag of someone you don't want to work with. Yeah, I know what you mean. The Gameleap guys, they sponsored Captain's Draft 3, and they are pretty fucking cool, I have to admit.
Absolutely.
They've got a really cool product. Unfortunately, a lot of people beat them to the punch and did it poorly and burned a lot of the audience that is now sort of like, oh, it's a scam. These guides are stupid. You could do it yourself. Gameleap, if you're one of those people that wants to sit down and play Dota 10 hours a week and actually learn and improve in those 10 hours, something like Gameleap is perfect. It's condensed, well-researched, well-portrayed information that is actually like, I don't want to use the word proven, but it's the kind of stuff that actually will make you a Dota better player if you sit down and study it like anything else you would in school.
I literally could not have said it better. It's perfect that somebody else has also experienced that, because it's like $6 a month. They give you your money back if you don't like it. I play Axe a lot right now. I raised my MR significantly playing Axe because I think he's entertaining. Then I went to Gameleap when they gave me the sub and watched the guide from Sovereign, because all the guides are like 6.5k writers and over, and realized ways to make it even better. And that's just what I really enjoy about the website. So that's it. But enough about Gameleap. I'm over it. You did most of the plug, and you did a great job with that. Let's talk about
I'm paid for, baby.
Right? Guys, that's why you want to sponsor Moonduck tournaments, folks. That's the kind of sell you get. It's top notch. All right, so it's been over a year since the dreads came off, Zyori. For those of you who may be new to the scene, right, we've been pulling people in left and right. League of Legends wrecked their MMR system, so more people are joining the scene regularly. I brought some pictures to the show to give you guys a look at what Zyori used to look like. So this is Zyori with dreads before the haircut. Oh, wait a minute. I don't think that's not Zyori. That's the wrong picture. Here's the right one. So this is Zyori before the haircut, and this is Zyori after the haircut. So you guys have sort of a context of what he looked like in the instantaneous moment. Yeah, you got the delay. I like it. All right, so this is Zyori now. You're looking at him on screen. You cut them all off, and when you initially cut them, you told me that you thought it was a good decision. You had chatted with LD about it. You guys had come to it from sort of a business context of maybe the dreads are holding me back a little bit. Now that you're off on your own, you're an independent for all intents and purposes, the way that sort of Moonduck runs its business category. Do you ever regret getting rid of them?
Most days, no. Occasionally, usually just when I'm intoxicated, I look in the mirror and go, man, I used to be cool, and then I sold out. God damn it, why did I sell out? And then I look at my bank account and remember, oh yeah, because it got me all of those gigs and actually gave me a professional career that puts food on the table. Yeah, I think I made the right choice. It's one of those things, it's kind of heart versus brain, On paper, I like the idea of, I can look however I want, fuck the haters, but in practice, life doesn't really work that way. You kind of have to present an image and dress to impress and all that jazz. So, no, still, if I want to do on-camera work, you got to look the part. In that regard, I don't really regret it. But, who knows? When I'm finally done with the camera days, the sky's the limit, man. I do miss having that ridiculous, just tried and true main. I do miss the random interactions of just walking down the street, listening to music, and people stopping me and being like, dude, what the fuck's going on with that? What is that? People are just consistently baffled throughout the day. Now I feel a little bit like vanilla ice cream. I used to be Rocky Road, and now I'm just vanilla bean, man.
That is true. Vanilla Bean's delicious, but Rocky Road is just that much better. So maybe one day when you follow the Dota career path that ultimately leads to a job at Twitch, you can grow your hair back out and get the dreads going again. Because it seems like that's sort of the Dota retirement plan, by the way, right now.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, Twitch is just a huge organization, and it's a good organization for the most part, right? Everyone I know that works there pretty much loves it. So, it kind of makes sense. They're a company that has a really good culture and understands that people are your most important asset, and that you've got to cultivate a culture of greatness. Twitch understands what it means to be cool. They were the first people that came into the space and were just like, listen, we're going to make this platform that we want people to use. That means we need people to like us. So we're going to throw all these parties after every event with open bars and make people feel special and give them high fives and hook them up with partnerships because we met them in real life. And it fucking worked. Everybody loves Twitch. Everybody thinks Twitch is cool. Well, all right, I shouldn't say everybody. Most people think Twitch is cool.
Hitbox not so much, but everybody else seems to really dig them.
I wanted to like Hitbox, but I
liked Hitbox. It's just the adoption's almost impossible. Anyway, well, that's a topic for another time. That said, let's okay. So you thought about getting them back. You sort of miss them a little bit, but it sounds like career decision is still sort of where you stand on this.
Yeah.
So as we talk about the expanding Dota scene, and you brought this up with the dreads where you said, this gave you career opportunities, cutting it off. We've seen more women enter the scene. We've seen more people who are willing to address things like gender stereotypes, who are willing to be out on stream, which is something that, as crazy as it sounds, in 2016 is
Has someone been out on stream? Did I miss a good outing?
No, there are people who are willing to say that they are bi or gay.
Oh, that's
openly,
nice.
Which is impressive. In
Dota, because I haven't met any of them.
I think I've met two that have been willing to come out and say that. So
that's nice.
It is. And do you think that that's something, because the Dota community still feels really tough on that stuff, right? Is that something that you sort of hope you see a future of it changing, a day when you can be hired with dreadlocks, or do you think that that's still too far off?
I kind of stopped giving a fuck. I gave up. Part of me is cold and hardened. I post sniff, there have been a lot of insults thrown my way, and eventually that hardened outer exterior just gets thicker like a callus. And at this point, I kind of expect the worst out of like 95% of the people I interact with on the internet. And if it's not the worst case scenario, I feel like I'm winning. That's kind of how I set up my day when I go in interaction with Twitch chat. So no, I don't know. I mean, I'm always happy to see that stuff kind of change for the better, but there's always going to be this underlying veil of anonymity. Twitch or just internet troll type phenomena that we're experiencing now. It's part of human nature. They've studied it. It's a condition. They've identified the factors that, you know, the perfect storm of people that thrive in that environment, the narcissism, the loneliness, the social awkwardness, whatever I can't remember what the 5 are, but you read it and you're like, holy shit, now I understand why people troll on the internet. If 10% of the population are like this, there are a fuckload of people that have nothing better to do than sit around, be douchebags because they hate themselves and it makes them feel better to project that on other people. I get it. It's cool. I've come to terms with it. And now when I see people being real rude and angry in Twitch chat, I just recommend they take more vitamin D and go outside and then I move on with my life. So I used to be better at empathizing with people's problems. That's a little bit of a lie. I'm sure I'm on the spectrum because I have trouble empathizing with people. But I don't know. I think in general, people that put themselves in the spotlight and then look for excuses to get defended sort of need to shut the fuck up to some degree. It's, you know, in the ideal world, everyone's going to be nice and not sexist and be nice about their feelings and tell you did a good job, but that's just not how the world works. It's not unique to esports that people are kind of rude and ridiculous. You ever read comments about Taylor Swift or any other pop star? You know, people are just fucking rude animals when they can say whatever they want with no repercussions. So fuck them. You know, you can't control other people's actions. You can only control your own. You got to control how you react and internalize and externalize, man. You got to externalize positivity, bro. You know, fuck the haters. Just smile and nod and move on with your life.
Okay, well, so along that topic, and I'll ask you this: you've gotten a lot of shit. You get a lot of shit for being yourself, right? We're talking the dreads back in the day, the fact that you're willing to wear tights no matter where, no matter when, no matter how. I remember the hair clip debacle where everybody just wanted to taunt pink hair clips for some crazy reason. There we go. It would not be a show if Zori didn't wear the tights, which I respect. But here's my question, and this I think is really pertinent to our fan base, is we are, at the core of what we do, lovers of video games. And we're old enough that we loved video games maybe before it was cool to love video games. Like when I go and I substitute in school now in like a middle school and people go, video games, like they're all like, yeah, that's the cool shit. The guy who's good at CSGO has some sort of weird status in 7th grade. But that wasn't the case when we were young.
No.
A lot of the people who watch the show, a lot of the people who are in the scene, in the spotlight, have that same background. We're not Taylor Swift, who was gorgeous and loved all of her life. I don't care what she says. We dealt with that kind of stuff. So let me ask you this, for the benefit of those who are watching, how is it that you're able to stay committed to this sort of stuff? It'd be really easy when you get shit about wearing tights to just stop wearing tights, but it's you, and it's what you like to do, and you're willing to keep doing it. What drives you?
Well, a retarded amount of confidence that may be misplaced, I suppose. I think I've said this before to people. I think anyone that works as talent, especially in esports, full-time has to be a little bit mental. Like, it's just one of those jobs where you're sort of all in, you're committing to a lifestyle where work comes first, everything else kind of comes second, including your personal health and well-being too much of the time, right? And it is deep-rooted in that. I grew up playing video games. I always loved playing video games. There is some weird sort of subconscious pride in being insecure about it when I was young in high school, and now being able to say loud and proud that I'm a nerd and my job is to yell about video games, you know? That definitely is a little bit of an aspect. I think that kind of breaking that stereotype that video games are an anti-social experience it definitely I like breaking stereotypes. It's kind of fun. I don't know, man. It's just me. The leggings thing. I remember this. Nothing sums it up better than this interaction I had with Swindle in the lobby of the hotel at TI5. And this is like probably day 4 into the main event, where, like, you know, this TI is a really long event. If you work the event, you're there for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks or something. It's a really long experience, and it's a little bit overwhelming, especially towards the end. There's just so much social interaction. You meet so many new people, all of these really high energy, enthusiastic fans, and you kind of want to match their energy. So towards the end, you start to just be ready to be done. And, you know, I sort of go from effort to just fuck it. So I just started walking around the hotel in, you know, my casual leggings and yoga pants. And, you know, Swindle was like, hey, man, did you lose a bet or something? And I said, dude, you're like the 5th person to ask me that today. And you know what? No, I just, you know, I'm a little gay and I'm not afraid to show it. What's up, my man? And he was like, that's cool. And then he just walked away. And I was like, I guess it really is weird for a guy to wear leggings in public. And then I just had that sort of mental epiphany of, fuck it, that's on them. My theory is if girls can walk around with half their tits hanging out, I can walk around with a little bit of a bulge and people can deal with it. It's just fair, right? We live in an equal society, you know, so dish a little bit of it out.
We don't give Lance a hard time when he wears bike shorts to work. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're comfortable and you're doing your job, why should it be an issue? Now, you brought up Swindle's addressing you, and I kind of want to talk about this. It's ironic that you said this at TI, where somebody asked you this kind of a question that could be, I think it was a fun question in his context, but if somebody asked that in public, it could be construed as an insult or something sort of demeaning. TI's around the corner. I know, nobody knows that I know of who's working it yet or what's going on there. So maybe you'll be there as staff. I do know that you mentioned to me that you'll probably be there making content for Moonduck. So we know that you're going to be on the grounds in Seattle.
Yeah.
When fans come up to you and say hello, and this is a question that I have, is it funny or is it fucking annoying if they make sniff jokes? Because I know it was a brutal time in your life, and I think people often think, well, that's the past. We can joke about it now. To be completely honest, I do it sometimes in Skype when we're chatting because it does feel like, oh, that was a year ago. But we forget that was a year ago for us because we saw a video that was uncomfortable. We didn't live through an ordeal that really broke every standard of privacy and decency in a lot of ways, because there was harassment to your parents, there was harassment to you, there was some pretty intense stuff that happened that we never had to feel. So I guess my question is it really in the past? Is it funny when somebody walks up past you and goes, or is that something where we should realize it's not dead? It's still something that I'd prefer you not make the joke.
It's weird. I kind of go both ways with it. There are times where, so like the last hub, I was hanging out with Fogged and Rob, and we were just watching the stream. It was like at the end of a shift, we were all just about to go to bed, and we were watching the stream, and we had Twitch chat open, and somebody said Zyori, and then a bunch of sniffs popped up. And there is some sort of cool magic in that ridiculous meme that you can go into any stream with, 10,000 plus viewers in Dota 2. Somebody says the word Zyori or says anything remotely similar to the word sniff, and Twitch chat will erupt for a small moment. It's like, hey, all those people are thinking about my dick right now. Right now, what's up? What's up? That kind of makes me feel good on occasion. Every so often, that's a little pick-me-up. I think the really low-hanging fruit shit definitely gets annoying. When I have an event and people, hey, Zyori, sniff, it's just...
Right.
It's just low brow and kind of like, really, that's the most creative thing you'd come up with. If people come up and ask me about it or like the experience and are genuinely curious, I have no reservations about talking about it. It's really the same thing with dreads. I have no problem talking to people that want to be educated, that are genuinely curious, like how dreads work and what the point is and that kind of stuff. But what I always found obnoxious were the people that would want to sort of ask questions so that they could get humor at my expense. It's like, listen, if you're actually curious, I'll explain it to you, but I'm not going to just talk about it so you can chuckle and walk away. If that's all you want out of this, then you can fuck off. You're not worth my time.
Right.
The sniff thing is kind of similar. If you come up and you make a little joke, or we're talking, and they're like, oh, but not as bad as sniff, right? I'm like, yeah, that's fine, and I'll laugh along and we'll have a chuckle. But just come up and be like, hey, Zyori, sniff. It's like, yeah, I get it, dude. I sniffed my dick. You're like literally the 10,000th person to come up and do that to me. Congratulations, you just won most unoriginal joke of the day. And if I say something passive aggressive like that, they usually give me a look and then just fuck off. And that's how it goes.
It's weird though, because then you're the bad guy, right? Though, like for the rest of their life, they're like, that guy can't take a joke, which is stupid because
So ultimately, no. I mean, at this point, I really don't care about it. People that I'm friends with know that it's cool. Every time I do a panel with people and they ask you, like every time Slacks does a video and he rips on me, he asks me ahead of time, is this one past the line? And I'm like, no, dude, I don't think you're going to be able to cross the line. It's one of those things that I'm happy to do bits about it. If I'm on a panel, I always tell people, go in, go ham. I recommend not using a lowbrow remark, but if you find a creative way to make a sniff joke or say something funny, by all means, make a joke at my expense. My brand is at the point now where I'm not trying to pretend that I'm some mythical, figure that has all the answers. I'm the one that's happy to do the fucking sellout reads, be the butt of the joke. I'm just trying to make an entertaining product. There's some power in owning part of a studio where I know at the end of the day, I'm not just talent anymore. Now I'm a business manager. I'm a decision maker. I'm responsible for other people. I manage payroll. I do a lot of things that provide value to a lot of people. So at the end of the day, casting is becoming a little bit secondary for me. I'm still really enjoying it. And I'm glad I'm getting more opportunities to do it, but it gives me a little more confidence as a caster knowing that, oh God, if this cast doesn't go well, if this dries up, what am I going to do next? It's like, that allows you to have a little more fun with it because there's a little bit less pressure.
Awesome. Well, that's most of the time that I put to the side for the show today. I really appreciate you being on here. Is there anything else? I know that we haven't had a chance to directly talk about what you're working on or what Moonduck's got coming out real quick. So I do want to give you a second to sort of bump those up and talk about them. But if there's anything else you really want to dialogue about, feel free to let me know. We can definitely take a little while to talk about it.
I mean, Toffees, I'm happy to talk about anything you want. I feel like I'm kind of an open book. If there are any other topics you want to delve into, my man, I'm feeling it. I'm happy to go there. On the Moonduck train, we're working on something post TI, either a captain's draft or an elimination mode. Probably a captain's draft, but it's not secured yet. We haven't finished all the financing stuff to secure the prize pool and that kind of thing. So it's right now it's sort of just a dream, an idea, an outline. You know, it's nothing formal, but we're definitely planning on doing something big. I hate these announcements, but I don't have anything ready to announce. But Moonduck is working. We're chugging. We're working on a new website. We're working on some new ideas. All I can say is we've been a company for about 9 months. The first 3 months of the first year were complete chaos. And this year, we really started coming into our own, creating a company. At our 6-month check-in, we were all really surprised that, holy shit, we're in the green. Oh my God, we're not just in the green, but we have some money to play around with. Should we send somebody to TI? Should we make some more content? Should we buy some more computers? What do we do? You know, we all sort of had this eye-opening moment of, wow, this is actually going a little bit better than we were all giving it credit for. And all of us were treating this as a part-time job to some degree. You know, everyone's distracted. One of our biggest problems is that all of our people have been traveling so much. You know, everyone's at majors and summits and all these events. So now people are getting on the same page. Now that people are settling down from traveling, everyone's sort of happy to get back to the grind. What the Duck tomorrow, 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard. Tune in. We need the ratings. Come on.
So I have to ask the Mark Cuban question, since you brought it up. You guys are in the green. You're running your company successfully. Are you taking a paycheck?
Yes and no. So I can explain some of this, but this will take a little bit of to do. Moonduck is a completely transparent organization for the people that are involved in it. So we don't have any of this, hey, this is the offer, flat salary, and then we negotiate that for a premium and then keep the middle ground. What we negotiate for tournaments is disclosed up front. We take a predefined percentage and then we pay the rest of it out to either talent fees or production fees or direct costs for the tournament. So everything's pretty straightforward. We don't have owner versus employee salaries at Captain's Draft 3. Everybody got paid the same. You were like, there were certain rates for different games, depending if it was group stage or playoffs. And if you were at the LAN, we figured out how much money we made relative to the tournament, how many expenses we had, and all of the quote unquote profit that was left over was split amongst the talent after Moonduck took its small cut. So yes, I'm getting a paycheck, but not in the way that you would think of a normal salary. It's because I'm working events and talent keep their talent fees. You know, we take a small percentage of things. And then as a brand, we're able to sell ads and do stuff with Twitch and various other partners. So we make money through a variety of ways between sponsorship sales, workshop sales, soon to be merch sales, and all this other stuff. So yes, I mean, I also do some freelance work on the side. I do websites and shit to pad my income a little bit so I don't have to stress about it. But yes, Moonduck is making money, and I am not starving, so that's good. That's very good.
If you can not be starving and cover esports, I think you're ahead of the game. Merch suggestion for you guys: if you're doing merch, someone needs to find the rights to bring back some retro shirts. Okay, I love your Zephyr shirt. Things like that are impossible to get nowadays. I would love to see re-releases of some of those old school classics, if that makes sense.
Writing it down.
I would 100% be down to get those old reminders of the good old days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's
old school classics.
Old school classics. I had put some time down. Maybe talk about politics. I know that you love that stuff. That said, I don't want to run past the 50-minute mark because we want it to be consumable, not massive. So maybe another time, if you guys ever want to tune in, or if you guys are interested, Zyori and I could talk till we're blue in the face about everything from Brexit to Trump and beyond. I'm pretty positive because we both have pretty strong political feelings.
I am a little checked out. I'm not going to lie. It's a little bit overwhelming. I don't have CNN right now. I read some headlines, but it's getting to be beyond stupidity for me. Dude, the world's going to shit when it comes to politics. Europe is fucked. America is about to be fucked. No matter who wins, Hillary and Trump are both terrible. It's bad. It's all very bad. I don't know where I'm moving, but I'd really like to move somewhere. We're in trouble, Toffees. That's why I try not to think about it. I just take my vitamin D and play Pokemon Go. That's all I'm hoping.
Have you been playing Pokemon Go?
I have. I'm almost level 5. I'm ready to go tear it up in the gym.
I
made a total noob move today. I caught a Nidoran, and it was the male version or no, it was the female version, and of course it looks like Nidorano, and I fat fingered it because I was so excited. Such a classic Pokemon noob. I embarrassed myself in front of my Twitter followers, and now I don't know if I can win them back. They think I suck at Pokemon.
Like you gave it. Like I don't know a ton about Pokemon.
All right,
but
so
do they have to breed? I don't understand.
No, there's one of them. There's a Nidoran, right?
Okay.
Or Nida, whatever. I didn't spell it right. But
Oh!
so there's a male and a female.
Yeah.
And if you look at it fast, the female one looks like an O at the end when you don't see the tail. So it's like, hey guys, look, I caught me a Nidorano. And they were like, it's a Nidorano, fucking idiot.
That makes more sense.
My little brother knew that 10 years ago. God, who is this guy? You play video games for a living? Those are the kind of responses.
Listen, I'm glad you said that because I caught one with the male symbol today and was very confused by the whole process. So, no, I'm ready. I just hit level 5. I've evolved my 4 top Pokemon. I'm ready to go and kick some ass and take some names. I think I caught 50 Pokemon today. It's a little ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah, well, my son was sick, so he sleeps best when I drive. So I basically just drove around parking lots catching Pokemon while he napped, essentially.
All right, I was wondering what's going to happen. All right, I'm taking the train into Philly tomorrow. I'm going to catch me a Zubat, dude. I'm trying to make it happen. I really want to star you. That's what I'm holding out for. I caught a Psyduck today. That was a little disappointing. Sometimes I just want to give them back. I'm like, I caught this for the experience, but I don't really want it.
Well, you can give them back. If you go to, if you click on them, you can give them back to the trainer for candy.
Yeah, I know. I started doing that with all the Ratatats I caught. I don't know why there's so many goddamn Ratatats around my house, but I keep catching them and they keep coming back.
It makes me feel like I live in a really dirty area that there's so many of those.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible.
Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. My name's Toffees. I'm joined by Zori. You can find me at Toffees TV. You can find him at Zyori TV. If you've never found him before, it's ZYORI TV. Though I don't know what hole you're living in if you haven't already followed him. I do want to leave off with one update for you guys who are podcast acolytes. The GoFundMe is alive and well. We're over 50% funded. The flight, the trip, and a place to stay and some food is essentially covered right now. Now we are raising the money for childcare and show content. Essentially, if you guys haven't heard, Renessa, myself, we found a producer who works for Major League Baseball who's going to be there for the week working with us, as well as some camera people.
Wait, what's his name?
I'll have to look it up. I don't remember.
Is it Graham?
It is... Put me on the spot. He's gonna be all grumpy with me. Be like, you don't remember my name?
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I figured you would just know his name because he's your fucking producer. Dude.
I do. It's because we talk on Twitter. We haven't really met in person yet.
Jesus. All right. Well, my bad. I didn't mean to throw a curveball there.
I got outed. I got outed hard. I don't think it's Graham, actually.
Okay. I don't know him then. Well, that sounds interesting.
So, and long story short, we are gonna try to put together a 30 to 40 minute morning show before TI starts every day. So we're doing some slice of life. We've chatted with the Pike Marketplace. So we're going to do some things like maybe make Renessa catch a fish out there. And so just bring you guys all of that slice of TI that I don't think you get to see as much during the main event. So hopefully if you guys think that sounds cool, check it out. Follow us. I will tell you all about who our producer
Toffees,
is.
you should add a stretch goal that if they donate $5,000 extra, you'll eat a piece of gum off the gum wall. Do it. Do it.
Yeah, but what if I died of a terrible disease?
I mean, you might get the herpes, but you'd be good.
I mean, for $5,000, I'll eat a piece of fucking gum off of the gum wall.
How bad could it be? It's probably sounds grosser than it is, honestly.
Totally.
Once it gets hardened on the wall, I mean, come on.
What? Yeah, I do it.
Like it has
I would do it. I
It's
drop it in some alcohol real fast to make sure it's disinfected, and then just take it down, right? Like that would
you
work.
can do whatever you want. Just ingest
I think that would
it.
work. Okay, 5 grand, guys. I'll eat shitty gum.
It's your stretch goal, dude. You can do what you want. I'm just the idea guy here.
Live your life, man. Live your life. All right, that's it, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you being here. A big shout out to Asus, Pro Built Systems, and Gameleap for bringing the show to you. And thank you, Zyori, for being on the show. I appreciate you giving of yourself to be here and chat with us about all this. The podcast will be up later tonight. The YouTube will be up in about 2 hours. My name is Toffees. Have a wonderful evening. And as always, Toffees out.